And we have 6 communities working on it. The one farthest along is Columbus, Ohio. We started with them a couple of years ago, and they now are gearing up for implementation. In our minds, we thought that it would be an 18-month planning process from discovery to destiny. We're finding that in some communities it takes longer. You are on a rapid prototyping schedule because that apparently is the culture here in Toronto. That you want to like not dawdle, you want to do it. So the summit is in May. The proposals will be worked on right after that. The summer, June through September, October, would be the design. And then the hope is that there will be kind of a rolling admissions or a rolling rollout that's starting in the fall, but at various points during the coming program academic year, programs will be hitting the streets. So it's a lot shorter here. We're going to learn with you about how realistic that is, but that is the goal. What's required from the community? Well, first of all, an openness to innovation and a recognition or being on the same page with regard to WOW and seeing things in the same way. The ability to mobilize data, not to collect new, a willingness to partner in gathering this new information from folks in the community, institutions and entities to engage in this process. What are the challenges that we can anticipate? Naysayers. I'm going to be really honest with you. People who have turf concerns. The need to think very differently about business models and about interrelationships. And those are challenges that we have faced. Time. Finding the time for this is a challenge. Not insurmountable, but it is a challenge. What are the outcomes to date in the communities that are farther along? Well, in all the communities where we're working, you might not think it's an outcome, but we do. It's brought people around the table to be talking and thinking differently, both lay and professional, to be talking in ways that they never did before about this form of education, and to be thinking differently, thinking more on a health-based versus a prophylactic vaccination model. People working together, collaborating together, researching and learning about what's going on in other communities that they can not buy like from a Chinese menu and select one or the other, but to inform ideas that they have. And in Columbus, that's the farthest along, they have identified, they have figured out the way forward for their implementation. They have identified and are securing 3 pots of money. One, which is for a community-wide initiative, which for them turned out to be creating an app, like Foursquare. I don't know if you're familiar with Foursquare, but you get points for doing different kinds of activities. And a group of 6 to 8 of their congregations, this is the exciting part, are talking together about what counts for points for this. So, and it's individualized for the different movements and streams of education, and different individuals can do different things. So, for example, Sukkot is one of the places where you could get points on this, and you can get points for possibly shaking the lulav, for constructing or being in a sukkah, for going to a local farm where they're going to be learning about the different rules of gleaning and performing them, and then harvesting for tzedakah. So you get the idea that people can cut it in different ways and can apply it. It's going to be linked to their curricula, and they're working on setting that up. Part 2 is overall professional development for the community at large, even for those who aren't participating in the Foursquare project, and they also will have access, even if they aren't the developers eventually, in it. And the third piece is mini grants, because in the course of choosing that community-wide project, they learned about a lot of other things: retreat programs, camp programs, an immersion Hebrew approach using puppetry. And some of the congregations said, you know, we'd really like to do that, and we need a little bit of money to do that. And so they're trying these mini experiments that are independent of the community-wide, but also will add a lot of different options. So those are the outcomes in that community. Again, truth in advertising. We're all pioneers. You're coming in on the ground level, or almost the ground level. You're going to learn, and we're going to learn with you. So what's in it for you? I would say that it's an opportunity and a little bit of a catalyst for doing some things that you wanted to do that you couldn't. Having a community to think about it and do it with you. Having community support to do it. Having a visit to break the mold. And if those are the kinds of things that you'd like to do, that's what's in it for you. And what are the next steps? The next steps are to fill out to submit the expression of interest, which I have to say, I understand that there was some misunderstanding. You don't have to have the proposal for what you want to do. That would be premature. All you have to do is make the case that you're the right one to be in the coalition of the willing. There's only 3 questions on the back, and you have to answer them, and I would say, answer them honestly and truthfully, but persuasively. And then we will be off and running. Deborah and I will be back on March 4th, 5th, and 6th. We have a very tight time frame, so we're going to ask you whether you do submit or you don't submit, but you want your voices and your people's voices to be heard, to work with the folks at CJE to help us set up the appointments for our group interviews. By the way, we are not going to be holding the interviews here. We're coming to you. We're going to go to downtown. We're going to far out in the 905. We're going to low threshold places like meeting rooms at libraries or public libraries, if we can get it, for the people for whom kind of crossing the threshold into the Jewish world might be intimidating, and we don't want to miss out on hearing from them. And so we're going to be doing that and holding a lot of conversations. And we're also going to be asking for information about the programs that you already have. And you won't be asked to create new stuff, just to submit the things that you already have that will help us understand better. So, any questions?
2.
Yeah.
Just the first one's easier. Can you just tell us which other communities you're working with?
Yeah, that's not so easy because I can remember.
Oh.
So, Columbus, Minneapolis, South Jersey, Metro West, Montreal. And they're all at different stages, and honestly, their WOW, although everybody's using appreciative inquiry, their WOWs are rolling out in different ways that are idiosyncratic to their community.
The second question is just for my clarification. To be part of the coalition of the willing, I'm assuming you're asking us to share in the goal. I mean, that's going to be the one shared piece. The goal is more about Federation's organizational goal, because it starts off saying it wants to double the numbers, rather than the learning-centered goal. Is it flexible? Is it going to be worked on? No, you're saying no?
That's not true.
Oh, good.
The goal is equal, and it's assuming that there's a real intrinsic interconnection between improving the quality, enhancing or expanding the venues, and bringing more people in. And it's not only about bringing more people in, it's about, and I alluded to it because that's what was done in other communities, it's having the people who are engaged in more meaningful, being more engaged, not peripherally engaged. And so it's both. But I will say, we're at a point in time for the Jewish community, and not just Federation, the Jewish community at large, where it's not all right for 50% of the people, of the Jews, to not be connected. But they're not going to be connected. It's not a matter of tushies and seats. They are not going to be connected unless we do the other part. It goes together. Thank you for that question, because it gave me an opportunity to get up on my little soapbox. Yeah.
One of the things that struck me, I've never seen the statistics, do you have any idea what percentage of families who choose a good Jewish non-day school preschool, because in this community that's a big factor, who continue into Jewish education? I don't know if that stat exists.
Okay, we don't know that, but I have something that is kind of an answer that was a shock to me. So in Columbus, a much smaller community that you just blow it up bigger to think about it, one of the things that we learned in the discovery phase was that a number of years back, they had 139 Jewish kids who graduated from Jewish early childhood programs. Don't know how many other Jews there were, but let's just look at that population. 139 Jewish kids who graduated and who would then, one would expect, because they all said it was fantastic Jewish experience, not only for the kids, but the family. They were all going home, and we know how that goes. Less than 50% continued in any form of Jewish education. Not day school, not Sunday school, not Jewish play groups in the following year. And a large percentage of them, well, there was a kind of a split. A large percentage at grade 3 or 5 joined wherever because they had to, but there was an equally large percent, even who went to Jewish early childhood programs, who did not, they were lost, did not go anywhere. So, Kal Vachomer, to take it, expand it out. What about those who never went in? There is, and what they learned from that was, man, we've got a captive audience. If we only focused on the half of the 139 who didn't continue and developed ways to have used what I call the alpha moms to get them to continue into some other form of Jewish education and to keep the families within the fold, that would be amazing. And what if we talked to them and we found out what it was that was the obstacle to having them continue, and we addressed those obstacles so that they would continue. So that's an example of, a very concrete example of how the discovery led a community to be thinking very differently, and they kind of knew that. But they, shining the light by having empirical data really helped them focus. And this was not a hard thing to do. Thank you for that. I feel like I've got like chills in the audience. This is great.
Depressing.
No, don't think about it as depressing. Think about it as an opportunity. We're all in appreciative inquiry.